preparing now to go live stream. So I will warn everybody that we are going live. So both of the people, both Sid and Doris Bonkers out there that will be sort of watching, we'll need to be on our best behaviour so we don't upset them. Okay, how's it going now, Larry?
I still can't. Hold on, hang on.
There you go. I've got it. It's come up here. So.
Right. Yeah, I've got it. I think it is.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to take this off.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the shared screen now because I'm going to go through the introductions and that. So. Okay, folks. Thanks for coming. It's another Socialist Sunday. Don't know how many of you have been aware, but there has been industrial action by the Bexley Refuse Collectors. This industrial action by the refuse collectors in Bexley this week, and it's going to be next week. And we're lucky, really, to have Willie come along to give us an update on it. So Busselon was going to come and speak to us as well, but she's got waylaid by family stuff, so that's unfortunate. But you know, these things happen. So I think everybody knows Willie, but if they don't, they'll soon know after this. Willie, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to take it away then, Willie? Thank you.
So my name is Willie Howard. I'm an organiser with Unite the Union. And as Dave has kind of outlined, the refuse workers and the street cleansers in Bexley Council are currently taking strike action. So for the past number of years, they've been outsourced to a firm called Sorco. Many of you will be familiar with Sorco's kind of antics locally and indeed nationally. They don't have the best of a reputation. And, you know, we had a strike action last year that was postponed due to the COVID stuff. You know, you remember when we've had these discussions about this before. But in short, there's a number of outstanding issues that haven't been resolved. So the first issue is that of low pay. They're pretty much the lowest paid refuse workers and cleansers in London, to my knowledge. The second major issue that we have is a huge disparity between different pay scales. So, for instance, you might have a loader working alongside another loader, and there could be a £4,000 a year difference in their pay. You might have a HGV driver getting paid less than a street cleanser. You might have a street cleanser who's there for 20 years getting paid less than someone who's been taken on a new contract. So you have multiple people doing the same job, but being paid kind of vastly, widely different pay scales, which, you know, isn't fair, you know, especially when you're dealing with very, very low paid kind of work to begin with. And lastly, then as well, you also have issues around 0 hours contracts. You have agency workers there who have no security or on complete precarity. For long periods of time, it might be added, you know. So you have a situation where some people might have to come into the depot for, you know, 5:30 a.m., hang around till 7:30 and then get sent home and paid. So you might have had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get a night bus over to the depot, and you might be sent off down the road with nothing, which is, you know, Victorian era type stuff to be going on. And as well too, you also have a culture of bullying in the yard as well. You have a management that are, you know, often very callous, that are kind of spuriously using targeted drug and alcohol testing with a view to victimizing people. And yeah, the pot has boiled over essentially. So we've just finished a week's strike action. There's been a number of issues there, to be honest, that have surprised even me. That I've been around doing this for a while now, over many years. So, you know, Dave, you've been there most days. You've witnessed a lot of this. The first kind of inkling we had was the police and Bexley Council sending us a joint letter together, warning us what we should be doing and where we should be doing it. Which raises the question: why is the police taking sides in an industrial trade dispute while, you know, they profess to be impartial? So we've had a number, you know, we've had a situation now where you have had police escorting out lorries, police physically preventing union members from speaking to their colleagues and asking them not to cross a picket line, which is their right, you know, and police efforts to try and bring criminal charges towards union officials, and doing that in complete concert with both, you know, Sorco, but more importantly, Bexley Council. You also on the first day had Sorco blocked my car and an officer's car in with a lorry and refused to move it. You know, that's the level of kind of vexatiousness and pettiness that you know that I'm dealing with. But like, you can imagine what it's like for the people who work there every day. You know, this is the attitude of the company that they work for. So we had a bit of news during the week that Sorco have lost the contract. Now that's a good and a positive thing. a new company is coming in. They're called Country Style. Now, Country Style are kind of a medium-sized company that do things along the lines of recycling, that also are involved in stuff like green waste and various other boroughs. But this is a major kind of step up for them, a huge expansion of their operations. They'll be effectively doing cleansing and refuse of a London borough with a population of about 250,000 people. So the only commitment we have on the table is that they're going to pay a minimum of the London living wage. That is a kind of a small pay rise for, a lot of people. And, we welcome that. Of course we do. However, there are still the outstanding issues around the pay scales. There's still the outstanding issues around the 0 hours contracts and all of that kind of stuff. Now, the thing that's bugging me at the moment is that Bexley Council are persisting in this absolute fiction, and it very much is a fiction, that they bear no responsibility for what goes on in the Crayford depot. That it's between Serco and the employees, nothing to do with us. And now it's between you and guys in Country Style, you're going to have to work it out. It's nothing to do with us. I had an argument with the mayor of Bexley on Facebook about this today, actually, and another councillor, Sue, I don't know what her name is. And they were like, an analogy would be if a builder was building a house and a bricklayer came in and he was treating his staff badly, that would be between them and the bricklayer. And I said, no, a far better analogy would be if I got loads of money off investors to build a block of flats and then I hired tradesmen that did shoddy and bad work and the house was falling down, and I turned around to the investors and giving me all the money and, whoa, it's nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? It's to do with the bricklayers. Like, the fact is that people pay council tax. They pay it to the council. The council has overall control over the contract. The council have brought this contractor in. The council originally transferred these workers from being council employees into being outsourced employees, and now they want to turn around and even though the service isn't being delivered for the residents that the council presides over, and go, oh, it's nothing to do with us. And I believe kind of what I said to them was, I said, like, you can stick your fingers in your earplugs and go la 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 all day long, but this issue isn't going away, and you're absolutely mad if you think it's going to go away because you persist with this kind of sophistry that, you're detached from the dispute. And as I said, at the end of the day, the residents are going to be complaining to the council. They're not going to be complaining to me, they're not going to be complaining to Country Style or whoever else. So we do have an opportunity. We do have a meeting with Country Style, this week, and that's a good thing as well. We're going to make it very clear to Country Style that, they have a 10-year contract. They have a choice to inherit a large industrial trade dispute and a giant mess, or that they can sit down with us and work out a better way forward, which obviously we want to do. No, we're not going on strike for the sake of it. It's because we want the issues resolved. And if they show an ability to resolve these issues, well then, the dispute can possibly come to an end. But the fact is that the picket has gotten bigger and bigger every single day that we've been there. Since Monday onwards, more and more people are coming on board. The council have found it pretty much impossible to deliver a service as normal, which is what they said they would do. They wouldn't, you do have a number of people who are working, a number of people who are crossing the pickets, scabs, we'll say, for want of a better word, that has allowed them to, affect some sort of skeletal service, but it's by no means a good one, and people are unhappy. So it is time for Bexley Council to sit down. It is time for Country Style to sit down, and we'll try and work this out, The spirits of the people are high. We've had fantastic support from local labour group and from other people as well, Dave especially, and Nicola and Richard, I have to say. Dave, you've been down there nearly every day. You've done invaluable work in kind of liaising with the police and challenging them in their antics, challenge the Serco on it. We can't thank you enough, comrade. That has to be said in front of everyone, I think. And that's pretty much it. That's where we are. I don't think I've forgotten anything. So do we have any questions or anything like that, maybe?
Can I ask a question, Willie? I mean, it was identified to me that a vehicle that came in, driving into the depot, that sped up towards the picket line, jumped on its anchors at last minute, then swerved around the guys that were diving for cover, and then sped through the yard. It was identified to me that was a Serco manager. That was a Serco manager. So I raised it with the police. I said to the police that as far as I was concerned, and I had been sort of in the profession of driving for 15, 16 years previously, that was dangerous driving in my view, using a car as a weapon. They were supposed to be going to speak to that guy, but when Ruth went over to challenge him and ask him why he was behaving like that, they seemed to have charged her with obstruction.
He shoved her. He physically shoved her. And the police have come now and said that they're bringing criminal proceedings against Ruth for obstruction and all of this kind of stuff. which is absolutely like it's a 10-mile-an-hour zone. You can see a giant 10 written in the road and there's an implied right of access, so people can be walking across the road and all of that kind of stuff. So what you're seeing is the police essentially taking sides in the dispute. They also brought myself and Ruth over, where turned on their body cameras, and the chief inspector, I believe it is, said like 5 times tried to elicit me, saying that there was intimidation taking place on camera. And the way he did it is like, can we all agree, please, William, that the intimidation that's been here has been in? Can you agree that the intimidation will end? And I was like, there has been no intimidation. The only intimidation that I've seen is a scab worker jumping out of a lorry, calling a Guardian journalist a filthy nonce and threatening to fill him in and break a camera over his head. And he had to be physically restrained by the police and by his colleagues. Is he going to be interviewed? Absolutely not. When he's standing over there giving a wanker sign to people and calling them dickheads and everything like that and screaming at the top of his voice, not a word said to him. Doing this side by side with the management, by the way. Meanwhile, the police are on about bringing criminal. This is going to look. The fact is that'll go to the Crown Prosecution Service and get thrown out because it's a nonsense. And he knows that, and I know that. But we had the same problem in Thurrock, folks. This isn't just. It's very important that we don't just portray this as a couple of cops acting out of order and getting a bit too eager. Like this is a systemic issue. This goes down to the heart of British policing and how it operates. So in Thurrock, at one stage, we had the police showing up every hour on the hour. And one of the sympathetic cops said to me, he said, look, we're getting a call literally every half an hour from the head of the council to our superintendent demanding that we come and break up your picket, that we use COVID legislation, that we try and ask you for music licenses and all of that kind of stuff. And, you're seeing the same in Bexley right now. And to be honest, as I said to the lads on the picket on the day, this reminds me of my generation, like of the worst kind of political policing that I saw in Ireland in the 90s and the early 2000s. In the south of Ireland too, we had this, where you have local political elites will, pick up the phone to their mates in the police and use them as a political weapon. Do you know what I mean? Oh, these people are having a meeting, go and break up this meeting, go and harass these people, go and shut that down, go and harass this strike, go and pull that person over and repeatedly check their tax insurance, all of this kind of pettiness. And the police down there are itching to arrest someone. You can see it in them, like. And it's a disgrace because we have enough problems in Bexley without having to use at some stage up to 20 police to provide escorts to act as boot boys for a private corporation.
Steve's got a question for you. Steve.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, Willie, I go back a little older than you, and I was involved in the support groups for the miners during the miners' strike, and then for the printers the year after. And my experience of the police in those two disputes was, a real eye-opener. It proved to me that in the final analysis, that's what the police are there to do, to side with the establishment and to side with these companies and these tuppeny gangster firms like Serco. In them days, it was Rupert Murdoch and his organisation in the printers dispute, and the American, I forget his name now, who they brought over to Thatcher's boot boy in the NCB. But the police behaved like absolute thugs in those disputes. And I believe you still got the Orgreave Truth and Justice Commission fighting for justice all these years later over what happened there when the police mercilessly attacked unarmed striking miners. So, I think your dispute down in Thames Road there and the other disputes where you've explained the behaviour of the police, small microcosm of what these people are there to do in the final analysis. Justice, equality, forget it. That's what they're really there for, to side with these people against working class people and against their trade unions in the final analysis. Now, just on the dispute itself, I know that some of the councillors, the council officers, of course, council's not involved. This is between Serco and their staff. But it's funny how it's the council officers that are turning up and putting out propaganda and claiming falsely that the rounds are being done and the strikes having no effect. Well, I live in Terence Court in Belvedere, just up on Uxley Road there, and none of our bins have been emptied. And I think it's a very patchy service that they're providing at the moment. And I've just got two questions for Willie. First of all, on Wednesday night, are we still on for the lobby of Bexley Council to let the councillors know how we feel about it? And secondly, if there's been no resolution coming towards the end of the week, is there likely to be a reballot for further action?
Yes is the answer to both your questions. We will be protesting outside the civic offices at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. I'd love to see you all there. Like, people always ask what can we do to help? Get some people down there, bring some whistles, make a bit of noise. We'll have a bit of crack down there, 100%. I'll send Dave the details about that, but I'd say it is a 6 p.m. Wednesday outside the civic offices. And second of all, we won't need to reballot, but we will call more strike dates, yes.
Okay. I don't have anybody indicated at the... Oh, hang on. Mark's leaning forward. You about to ask a question, Mark? Yep, okay. Mark, ask your question.
Thanks, Willie, for that interesting enlightenment about the dispute. Just a couple of points. Like Steve, I remember some of those disputes during the printers' strike in Wapping. I lived in a council flat on the 21st floor in Wapping, so I was down there most days. And I saw the kind of orchestrated police brutality, and also during the miners' strike. And also another political point we can make from this dispute is how the restrictive nature of trade union laws. Back in the 70s, I remember great examples of solidarity. I can remember when the Asian print workers were on strike at Grumwick. I was there when Scargill turned up with 3,000-4,000 miners. And some of those disputes, the solidarity was inspiring to see and to be part of. And that's no longer possible now, because so much of what was then legitimate trade union activity is being criminalized. And that's something we really need to push for us in the Labour Party, is if we ever do get back in power, is we need to really rescind some of those restrictive trade union laws. Just also, I'd like to ask Willie, when this new group are going to run the refuse service, when does their actual contract come into being? Is there a time when Serco finish, and obviously they're not doing it immediately, I presume?
October,
yeah, thanks, yeah.
Okay. Nobody else is indicated at the moment, which, I mean, they always start off really, really shy, and then suddenly you've got loads. Larry's got his hand up now. Larry.
Yeah, thanks, Willie, for your presentation and briefing us on what the state of play is. I just wanted to ask, I mean, a question to you, and any others can come in on this as well. Obviously I'm aware, from previous examples or previous incidents, if you like, that political policing does go on and does take place. But when you've got to the stage whereby you're getting letters sent out, joint letters from Bexley Council and the police, that is sort of somewhat worrying. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that can be done to challenge the police on this, whether some kind of complaint can be made by some kind of official, through official lines of some sort, if you like. And also, within this complaint, it could actually document some of the instances that have happened at the depot. You mentioned that sort of incident with Ruth and so on. I mean, these seem to be sort of clear abuses where the police are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm just wondering, is there something that can be done? I did make it down there on Thursday morning, and I think I couldn't quite work out what it was about, but some guy had his had like a big speaker on the ground, and he was playing some music. And at that point, the police pulled up. I'm not you know, they weren't there for long, but I'm not quite sure what they said or what they were trying to achieve, but they then moved off. But it does all seem a little bit sinister, and I'm sure there must be ways that this can be challenged. You know, even if you say something officially, somebody will look on, somebody will see it, and, you know, they might think, well, hang on, you know, we've got to be careful. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I believe the union will be challenging this on behalf of our officer route if charges are brought. You know, so you'll have our legal department looking into it. But I think, Dave, you've done a bit as well in kind of asking about, you know, from the council point of view, asking them what they're playing at and things along that line. You'll be better off. You'd be better placed to speak about that than me. You know.
Okay. Well, basically, what happened was the chief inspector was speaking to you and Ruth, wasn't he? And I was quite curious as to why it needed the chief inspector down there with 20 police officers. And when he was actually sort of coordinating stuff between him and the other guys, it was quite obvious that they were actually trying to work out how to actually stop or break through the picket line. And if you're actually sort of looking at what's going on, I actually had to write a letter to Bexley Council because I'd spoken to the Bexley officer and I'd said, if the PR is correct, the PR states that this dispute is between Serco and the workers, the guys that are on dispute at the moment. If that's the case, why are you here now talking to these guys, but the Serco guy is lurking behind the police cars over there, but won't come over and speak to the guys? Now, the officer from Bexley was quite prepared to stand up and sort of talk to the guys. He didn't have an answer to that point. The police officer wouldn't answer me on that point. They didn't come back and give me any feedback. When I complained to them about the driver and his dangerous behaviour, they said they were going off to speak to the Serco manager as had been identified. They never came back to me. The chief inspector never came back to me. And my concern is that you've got 20 police officers and a chief inspector at a peaceable, legal industrial dispute. What the hell is going on in Bexley that needs a chief inspector to come down? There's no need for that sort of level of, I mean, all it needed was 2 or 3 policemen to be there, if necessary, to watch what was going on. I mean, I've never known sort of 20 or 30 sort of policemen turning up, and certainly not a chief inspector. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got Chris wants to ask a question. Chris.
Yeah, hi. I've my observations. Well, I've seen a couple of Serco people, especially down Bexley Broadway. You know, street sweepers. I presume they're, you know, they're you know, like scab workers. I would assume. And also, is the refuge site down at Thames Road, is that shut as well due to the strike, or what's happening with that?
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
You answering that one, Willie?
I'm not sure, to be honest, about the other sites that are still open at the moment, you know.
When we've been coming out of the car park at the end of our tenure at the picket, there's been a guy stood on the recycling unit and they have been allowing cars in there. So I presume that the recycling place is still open at the moment, but
Correct.
That's run by Country Style, isn't it? So it's a Country Style have already got that sort of aspect of the contract with Bexley. So they're not in dispute with Bexley in that particular aspect of it. So that's it.
Okay.
Can I ask, Willie, I mean, are you happy I'm going to be putting up a poll now just so that everybody that's here, before we lose people or before you have to go, I want to run by a poll and see what we get the answers to. So everybody, there's going to be a poll launched now with 6 questions. Simple, it's a multiple choice answers to each question, but you should be able to deal with it. Not going to be too difficult. And you can partake as well, Willie, so that we get full coverage here. So here we go. It's launching now. There's the poll for you. Click on the relevant buttons, peeps.
having a look at this? No.
Is that typically when they jump over the wall and stuff?
I'll give you another minute to finish off, and then I'll end the poll and we can get back to having a conversation. And hopefully one or two others will have thought of a question of their own then. Okay, you've got 5 seconds. Everybody done? Everybody done?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, peeps. I'm ending that poll now. There you got the results there. If you want to have a look at them, I'll just move them to one side. Richard, while people are having a quick mosey through the poll results there, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, it's just a simple one. Just a thank you to Willie for the update and keeping us up to speed. All I was going to ask is 6 o'clock tomorrow good enough time? Or what's the best time for us to get down there tomorrow morning, Willie?
Before I forget, Richard, I was supposed to send you posters. The reason we had to send them back for reprinting because it said it didn't mention the street cleansers and they would be so I haven't forgotten.
I've got some snowflake, it's all right.
Yeah, 6 or 7 a.m. is fine, mate. That's grand.
Nice one, thank you.
I see that Maria's got a question in the chat there, Willie. She said she's really concerned to hear about this. Can other unions offer support?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, what you could do is you could email Peter Krask, the councillor, on behalf of your union branch, ask him to resolve the issue. If you're having a union branch meeting, you know, donations to the strike fund are always welcome. It covers tea, coffee, kind of stuff for the people on the picket line. Yeah, if you want to get down, if you want to send a message of solidarity, you can go to the Facebook page, Justice for Refuse Workers and Cleansers. You can share that about the place. If you want to send a solidarity message, you can send it there. I can pass it on. And yeah, you can come down yourself and visit. You know, they're the best things to do in any dispute, you know.
Okay, let's get rid of this poll then. Okay. Has anybody else got any questions for Willie? At the present time, nobody's indicating, and I'm quite surprised that nobody's indicating. Everybody's shy today.
Dave, I've got a question.
Oh, yeah. Go on, Munir. Munir.
Yeah, Larry was before me, but
sorry, I didn't see Larry. You got your hand up.
No, it doesn't matter, Munir. You go first.
Yeah, Willie, it was good to see the spirit of people that were out on the picket line. I'll be joining them again this week and on Wednesday, and my union is going to be supporting you. That's a Unite Community branch. I was just wondering on those incidents and the police behavior, whether any of the people on the picket line had captured any of that on video. And for the future, perhaps, if you're going to step up the action this week, some of us can be ready to use our phones to video anything that happens. So we're not relying on evidence that the police or somebody else is going to provide, Serco are going to provide. Let's do what the community did in terms of Black Lives Matter and use our own resources to make sure we gather enough evidence which we can use on social media and any other action that's taken. I wondered if Alexandra is here, she chairs the Trades Council, if they've been involved too. And finally, the Labour group and councillors, Tory councillors, what interaction has taken between them and the union officers? You might have said that earlier. I'm sorry I missed a bit at the beginning.
Thank you, Munir. Willie?
Yeah, well, we do have some stuff on footage, and a lot of the workers have stuff on footage themselves. You know, and obviously, if anyone's down in the picket and there's any interactions with the police, I would always encourage people to require the police in a respectful manner. I mean, I don't agree with going up to the cops, sticking cameras in their face all the time, fun as it is. But by all means, come down and do it. As for the local trades council, I couldn't really comment. I wouldn't really be aware.
Thank you, Larry. You had a question.
Yeah, just got a question for you, Willie. I think during your opening presentation, you said that there are some talks or negotiations going on with Country Style, if I'm not mistaken. Just wondered if your general impressions of the company are positive. Are you hopeful? Do they seem more amenable or more responsive than Serco, if you like? I mean, bearing in mind, obviously, they've just won a contract, so perhaps they've got an incentive to appear as though they're willing to be friendly and conciliatory, if you sort of mean. But just in general terms, what are you hoping to discuss with them in particular, and do they seem like they're listening? Thank you.
Yeah, they're an unknown quantity, really. I've heard they're anti-union. I've heard that they're not anti-union. I mean, I don't really know them. I've never had any dealings with them in the past. They reached out to the union via somebody else that they knew, and asked for a meeting, which is always a positive sign. As I was saying before, the London Living Wage being brought in, that's a good thing. That's a positive improvement for a lot of people. But they also need to be able to work on the pay scales and issues around local management, things like that. So we'll see. That's it. We'll be sitting in front of them this week, and I'll have a better kind of grasp of it then, Larry.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Willie, I've got two questions. Are you going to be sort of asking them about? Well, you're going to need to be asking Bexley about whether there's a break clause in the contract. And what was the second one? Forgot what the second one was. 2 seconds and I've forgotten it, honestly. Can't remember. So, yeah, can't remember. It's gone. Sorry, Matt. Oh, yes. The driver. Is he going to be tupied across to Country Style? The Serco driver that came into the car park, that manager. Is he going to be tupied across to Country Style?
He will be, but they might get rid of him, or Serco might bring him with him. The management tend to have a lot more options in these cases, But yeah, technically he's entitled to 2p over if he wants. To be honest, I'd say he'll probably rather go somewhere else by the end of this.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Nobody else is indicating. What the hell's going on today? Everyone's really, really shy. Oh, Mania, go on.
Dave, can I raise another question on this question of tuping over? Do we have any details on how TUPE worked when it went out to Serco, the contract? And it's the argument that is normally put up about pension costs being what is prohibitive. Are these managers being provided pensions by Serco? Did they take over the pension that was provided by the council when it went to Serco? And if it is brought in, and Country Style will probably inherit whatever Serco is doing, are we obliged to do that? I mean, management changes managers. Serco would change manager within a year or something of taking over contract. Would that sort of arrangement also be available to the council, so they use their own offices, but not get the privatized sectors managers brought in to run council contracts?
Thank you, Vinny.
Council service, I mean, rather than a contract.
Yeah, so if you previously worked for the council and then when you started working for Serco all those years ago, you'd still be on a council pension. But if you're working on a Serco, if you were hired on a Serco contract, you would have been hired on a Serco pension. If you'd have been hired after 2B, which most of them were, which is crap, you know. 2B will protect things like that with pensions and stuff. But companies can also do what's called an ETO, an economic, technical, or organizational restructure, which actually gives them quite wide sweeping powers to alter existing contracts. All they have to do is provide consultation and a reasonable business case as to why it's necessary. I've seen that happen before many times. Now, whether Countrystyle intend to do that, I'm not sure, you know. So we'll see. Again, this will come out when we meet with Countrystyle this week. I will ask about the break clause though as well, Dave.
Excellent, thank you. Larry.
Yeah, another question for you, Willie, and perhaps it doesn't greatly matter now, but as far as I understand it, Serco have the contract, or at least Countrystyle take over, I think, on the 4th of October, as far as I understand it. So that means we still have, about 2.5 months or so of Serco to go. When I was there on Thursday, I made a point of speaking to quite a few of the refuse workers and so on, just to get a feel for their views and you know, what they thought of things, etc. Now, I think I did pick up a feeling that you know, Serco are basically going to run the contract into the ground between now and the 4th of October. Is that something you're sort of aware of or fear as well? And if they do that, I mean, what sort of impact could it have? I mean, could it be a pretty horrendous 2.5 months for the residents of Bexley? Or does it perhaps in some senses not really matter now? Thank you.
Well, how long is a piece of string, really? You know, you don't know what they're going to do. I've seen it before that when outsourcers weren't given a contract that they expected to be given, which Serco certainly, like, it came as a shock to me. I'm sure it came as a shock to all of us that Serco didn't get it. They were an incumbent, they're there for a long time, they're a big company. But my experience with companies like Carillion before it went bust, Veolia, all of that, when they're lobbed out of a contract, they react often with sabotage. Sometimes that sabotage can be good for us. They decide to give everyone a 20% pay rise, you know, to sting the company coming in. Other times it can be, you know, literally just sitting up in the office with their feet up, smoking fags, watching the TV, you know. So I've no idea, Larry. Again, we'll have to see. I can't anticipate what Serco are going to do. I imagine they're not very happy, and imagine they're not too concerned with the service now at all for the next 8 weeks. I'd say I couldn't care less, to be honest with you, you know. Like why would they? You know, they only exist to make profit. They don't exist to actually. They don't care about the service, the quality of it. They don't care about the residents, the borough. All they care about is the bottom financial line. And now that they've lost that contract, they'll be looking to move on. So, you know, they might be very petty. They might be vindictive. They might just be lazy. I'm not sure. You know.
Okay. Thanks for that, Willie. Alexandria, and after Alexandria, it's going to be Chris Mace.
Yeah, hi Willie. I'm just wondering what will happen when this police bill is ratified when it comes to pickets, because any protest that obviously causes any, and I'm using inverted commas, you can't see because I'm not on cam, nuisance will be criminalised, which I think will criminalise many pickets.
So, sorry, was that you were asking about this the new protest bill? Was it? You just went a bit fuzzy at the start.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no, it does. It presents the right to picket is enshrined in law, but what we've seen with the Trade Union Act was that it impacted the ability to get a ballot for a picket and to execute a picket. A lot of people, there's this myth out there that you're only allowed 6 on a picket under the law and stuff. That's a guideline. But one wouldn't be surprised if this government comes back for a second Trade Union Act, especially in lieu of the RMT strikes on Southern, when you have a huge amount of Tory voting wealthy commuters were, you know, severely hassled, things like that. Even what happened in Thurrock when a local Tory government was humiliated, essentially. There's only so much of this stuff that the government will begin to tolerate before they bring in a second Trade Union Act. But to answer your question in regards to the bill, yes, of course it does. The amount of any time that you try and criminalize protest in any form, even aside from a picket, it will have a knock-on effect. So when I mentioned the Trade Union Act, the amount of the first time any picket I'm at, they always get it off these cops. They come up and go, "Oh yeah, you're only allowed 6 on a picket." I was like, "No, we're not. You don't even know the law." But the fact is that's just created a climate where they feel that they're well able to go in and get stuck in. the likes of the reaction to Extinction Rebellion, for instance, when Priti Patel took over and basically gave the Metropolitan Police a green light to tear into protesters. Again, you can see that overspill in anything like that as well. Because if police are given powers that are draconian, they will exercise them. You know, and if police are confronted with a large group of people, they will use those powers to shift them, whether they're right or wrong. I mean, you know, and we all know that the police will break the law and then answer questions afterwards. So yeah, I am worried about the protest bill, and I do believe it will have an effect, even if it doesn't specifically mention pickets. It will have an effect on the climate and the culture with which we deal with the police. You know, we're seeing that now.
Okay, Chris, thank you, Willie.
Yeah. In regards to the protest on Wednesday evening outside the council offices, what I propose that we do, I mean, most of us here are Bexley council tax paying residents. I've got my council tax bill with all the breakdown of, you know, paying the council tax. And I think it might be an idea. I think I might bring along, I suggest other people bring along our council tax and say, look, we're council tax payers to Bexley Council, and we want our bins collected. You know, what are you doing? You're taking our money and you're not paying the bin workers to go and empty the bins. I mean, Serco is part of Bexley Council's problem. Yeah, they try and dismiss it, but it's Bexley Council's problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, dig out your council tax bills, comrades, and I'll be there on Wednesday evening, and I'll even put it in front of a police officer if it comes to it. I'll say, look, I'm a Bexley resident paying council tax. The bins are not being emptied, and see what they say to that. You know.
Thanks, Chris. Did you want to come back on that one, Willie, or?
No, 100%, spot on. You know, get down there by all means. Yeah, take pictures of yourself doing that and put it up in all the residents groups. You know, on Facebook. Yeah. That's always a good thing as well. Yeah, there's a lot of good residents groups. We're in most of them under our Facebook page. But if people want to go in and start kicking off on them and say, look, because it obviously looks more organic, and I have a large kind of union following on my profile anyway. It's quite obvious who I am. But if you want to go in there as residents and kick off about that and have a picture of your council tax bill and say what is the council doing to resolve this, that's all very, very useful, because the councillors are acutely aware of these groups. They're some of the best barometers of public opinion you'll get these days. Which is why I ended up arguing with James Hunt and Sue. I can't remember.
Gower.
Sue
Gower.
Sue Gower, that's the one. And these people, you know. So by all means, yeah, come down and do that, Chris, and also get on the Facebook resident sites and kick off about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Also, I'm going to start debate with my bus driver colleagues. And see if we can, offer you support. You know,
that'll be brilliant, Chris.
You know, and I'll get talking to them. Okay.
Excellent.
All right.
Excellent.
Without being pushy, Chris, if you could have a word with your colleagues and see if they can make a direct contribution to that particular branch, because I think it's a new branch and they don't have a great deal of funds. So whatever you've got to actually support, or whatever you could generate from your branch towards them, would be a nice act of solidarity and actual support for them as well.
Yeah,
if you can manage it.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that over the next couple of days.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Willie, I'm not going to read this out because we're still on a live YouTube feed, but Larry did put an interesting suggestion in the comments in the chat. So you may want to have a quick look at Larry Ferguson's suggestion.
I've heard this one before, and I've never seen it yet to come to fruition. But if it does, I'll be clapping it on to it, and well done, because I was waiting for someone, like when someone had a suggestion, I'm like, please don't say it. But yeah, definitely crack on, folks. Someone wants to organise that. My full support anyway. I'll pay for the diesel.
Okay. Well, nobody else seems to be indicating, and. You've been going at it for 50 minutes now, Willie. So you're more than welcome to stay, or if you want to go off and get your roast,
Well,
I
I've
take it
had-
that means you'll be taking your shirt off and lying in the garden on this.
I've had the roast actually, but what I have is my partner made me a banana split and it's after melting to pieces. So I'm going to jump in and eat that now before it's a slap. That's all right. I just quickly want to say, look, thank you so much for everything. It means a lot to me personally, but it means a lot more importantly, it means a lot for the workers down there. And you know, it's a cliche, but we are a movement and we need to act more like a movement. And all the suggestions and the comments and the ideas that people have come up with here are fantastic. We really need people down there on the Wednesday evening. Please come down, bring your friends, bring your family, bring the kids, aunt, uncle, a whole lot. And I'll see you then, folks. Yeah.
Okay. And if I can get it downloaded, I'll send you a copy of the poll as well, because I do believe that the poll was 100% in support of the strike action, and you can show that around the guys down there tomorrow. I don't know whether you're going to be there tomorrow.
I will be there tomorrow. Yeah. I won't be there first thing, but I'll be driving down from Milton Keynes. I'll be there around 6:30 or so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll see you then.
All right. Thank you for your time today, Willie.
Good
Really
afternoon,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take it he's gone, is he?
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, what I would say, people, is there's normally a 2-minute delay on the YouTube feed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end that, and then it'll probably take 2 minutes for it to close down. I don't know whether we had any participants on there or not. Were you able to find out, Larry, or not?
No, not look. No, I can't tell looking on my phone. It doesn't show
All right,
any.
no, don't worry.
looking
We'll have a look later.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank anybody that was participating on YouTube, and we're going to close that avenue off now, and then we'll get back into the rest of the afternoon's conversation.